Well, this is weird. What the hell? What is wrong, man? There we go. All right. Sorry about that. Having some technical difficulties here. So Tom here, FlipAnythingUSA. Thought we'd do a chat here from the jacuzzi tonight. My back's been killing me, and finally getting better. But I thought, you know, I don't like to waste time. That's why you see me talking in my car or whatever I'm doing, and sitting in the jacuzzi. It's pretty idle, so might as well kill two birds with one stone. You know, it's interesting. I cracked open the book again on Think and Grow Rich. I probably hadn't read that in 10 years. I probably read it 100 times 30 years ago. Definitely a recommended read, Think and Grow Rich. And I think the first chapter in there is desire. And in the book there, it's talking about a guy that just had his mindset on, and I'm paraphrasing, of course, but had his mindset on going to work for this particular big company. You know, he just went in there and he really didn't have anything going for him other than his mind. He was a smart guy. He was an inventor. And he knew he was worthy of maybe being partners with the guy that owned the big company. But it was purely through desire that he made it happen. And I think about that for myself. You know, you got to want it. We talk about that all the time. You know, you got to want it. And I think you know, everybody's got to examine what they really want and how much they want it, and you know, it's just like, because it's hard if you're only halfway in, it's hard to be successful. So I just kind of wondered how people feel that are watching. I mean, is your heart in it with real estate, or what's the desire? I mean, what are you striving for? Is it just money, or is it something else? I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth. For me, it was money. For me, it was money, because we were pretty poor when I was a kid, and I did not want to. I realized that money is what really was going to take care of the things I needed. So we got a semi-bad connection here, so I don't know. If it may break up so bad, we'll have to kill this thing. But yeah, anyways, I thought it was interesting because, you know, really it's that desire. Well, the first business I had a cabinet shop. And man, I wanted to make money, and I was going to make it work, and I didn't want to fail. And sometimes that fear of failure, it keeps people from trying. But it also, sometimes that fear of failure keeps people working hard. Like, they do not want to fail. So they get started, and, you know, it's kind of like official. You know what? I've started this business, or it's official. I'm trying to do this. And so I think it's good. I think it's good pressure. So, you know, I don't know where you guys fall into that class, or gals, you know, how you feel about things, but I think it's good to tell people that, you know what, you're an investor. You're an investor. That's what you want to do. Or even if you haven't bought anything yet, you know, but you've got that mindset, and that's what you're going to do, and then start working it, and start working toward it, and put yourself under that pressure. Let people know that, yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm an investor, and it'll make you work harder, and it'll keep you focused, because you're kind of putting yourself under the gun, right? I mean, at least I know that's how I work. Anybody's thoughts on that? Oh my gosh, this connection. I hope it's. Can you guys hear me? I'm not even sure you guys can. I got a computer running over on the side here, and it doesn't even look like it's getting a good signal here. So what's happening in Hawaii, Michael? Okay, good. Oh, glad to hear that. Okay, cool. How about you, Prince? Anybody else out there? Can you hear it? Is the signal coming in good enough? But anyways, also, oh cool, getting the contracts in order. Yep. You know, that's one of the main things, is writing a contract. In fact, I was talking to somebody the other day about, you know, the money that I made on that. I told you guys I made over $1 million on a piece of property I didn't even own. Probably closer to $1.7 million, which is funny, which is what I was paying for the property. And I ended up making that much over a period of about 7 years. I made probably $1.5 million anyways, by renting a property that I'd rented. And yeah, that's probably one of the best deals I've ever made when I think about it. And it didn't turn out, it wasn't intended that way, but it was a property that I was trying to buy that I ended up renting until the owner was going to get some certain conditions of the property squared away that he was never able to get squared away. And so my low rent ended up lasting for about 7 years. And I say low, it was about 10 times lower than it should have been, or it could have been, I should say. We made our agreement, it was what it was. But you know, you got to find that desire within yourself, and that discipline to make things happen. And you know, for me, just being worried about being poor. I didn't want to be poor. You know, I really didn't want to be poor. And in all honesty, you know, I could have backed off a long time ago as to how hard I work to make money. But you know, it's just, you get to a point where you know, it's like, you know, if like you want to kill something, you want to make sure it's dead, right? And for me, I wanted to kill that fear of not having money. And so the only way to do that is to just keep making more and have more assets and have more cash flow. And I have to laugh because you know, there's a point where it's like, you know, it was just silly. I was rich, okay, and I could back off, but I still did not feel secure. I didn't feel, I just, you know what, I try to hold the bar pretty high, and I think everybody should do this. If you keep your standards too low at where you want to, you know, make your goals too low, I mean, you'll hit them for sure, but you should always raise the goal, right? Raise it, raise that bar a little higher, make it tougher on yourself, and because you will hit your goal, and you'll go past it. And I mean, I think about a lot of the folks that I thought were so wealthy when I was younger. I far surpassed their wealth, you know, a long time ago, but it was good, you know, it was good. You know, if I saw somebody that just had like a nice pickup truck and a nice home, I thought, wow, that'd be great just to be there. You know, I remember my first goal was, I just imagined having like a little cabinet shop out in the woods, and a little, you know, like a little cabin, you know, just very simple, you know, not it wasn't a really big goal, you know, it was just to be self-employed in a nice little home. And you know, but as things moved on, I wanted more and more and more. But it was mostly the security. Also, I kind of got, as you go to work and you start realizing, geez, you know, $10,000 isn't very much money. $100,000 isn't very much, you know, and on, you know, relative to where you live, you know, $1 million isn't very much money. So, you know, or it can be. But anyways, I just wanted to mostly talk about that. Wanted to talk about just the desire. You know, you got to have the desire, and wherever you pull it from, whether it's fear or whether it's just you know, maybe a more positive thing, maybe just the joy, or you know, the love of what you're doing. Watch the most pointless playlist ever. Nice. All right, we'll do that. Anyways, the other thing I was talking about is apathy. People just not caring. It's interesting when people will have a problem, you know, they care, right? You care when you have your own problem. And I'm talking about just in general, like people don't vote, people just don't give a damn, people don't get involved until maybe, or I don't know. I've always cared, you know, I've always voted and I've always been interested. I can't stand other people, telling me what to do, and especially when it's people I disagree with. And I'm talking about a lot of people that get elected, and I see people complain, but I see people complain that don't vote, and I don't get that. I don't get that either. So, anyways, it's interesting. I don't understand the apathy that's out there, and I don't know if some of it is from just actually the feeling of helplessness. I went to a place called a kava bar. It's kava. It's like drinking muddy water, to be honest. But it's pretty interesting. You drink this stuff, and it's very relaxing. I guess it's some sort of Indian tea, and it's pretty interesting. The feeling it gives you, it kind of numbs you, and but you can hop in your car and drive away. It's not, you know, it doesn't affect your faculties to drive, or, you know, it doesn't make you high, it doesn't make you buzzed, but it's very relaxing. And if ever you go into one of those, it's pretty interesting, just the different choices that they have, but also the groups of people in there. They're pretty diverse. But I was talking to some young people, I'd say millennials, and I was talking to them about voting and if they're involved, and there's a site out there called Reform Cow that's pretty much about shaming public officials and government workers that don't work, that don't carry their weight, or they're overzealous. And if you become a real estate person, you'll see more and more of that, and you'll get more frustrated with more of that because you'll be paying more and more taxes, and so you get very frustrated when you have poor services from your city, and you'll want to get involved, and you'll want to, you know, give money to the to your candidate that you want to win. But what I found was in this kava bar was people that just felt so helpless. They said, "Man, my vote doesn't count." These are people in their 20s. They felt that their vote did not matter, did not count, so they didn't vote. They didn't vote, and but they had just no will to take any action. And I know that it's been a pretty depressing, you know, last 8 or 10 years have been horrible. Ever since that bank failure, things have been terrible for a lot of people. I mean, now things are roaring back, and things are looking, I mean, I have my fingers in several different businesses, and I can tell you the economy is really, really doing well overall. As far as manufacturing goes and real estate goes, you know, the thing that might start hurting us is if the real estate interest go up again. If they do go up, then we're going to start to see some of our values drop on some of the properties that we own, especially the houses. That's why I'm getting rid of some of my houses, because when the interest rate goes up, the values drop, and because so much of the country is not how much, it's how much a month, you know, and it's kind of how people buy cars and everything else, where, you know, I'm a net guy. I look at the numbers, and I want to know what the total APR is for the year, and with everything figured in. But I guess that's probably one of the things that I kind of wanted to talk about most is, and maybe some of you folks are more apathetic or less apathetic or more passionate, I don't know, but it seems like there's a little bit of a link between desire and passion and apathy, because I see a lot of people that I see that are the most apathetic are also the least passionate and driven. And so I don't know where anybody falls into that, but man, you got to find that drive, you got to find that desire, and because you got, I mean, man, you know, it's just like, you know how it is. If you run a race, if you don't really care about winning, I mean, you probably don't care. You're not going to win. You know, it's just a whole different desire. It's a whole different drive. You know, when you're doing something and wanting it, and you're doing something and you don't care. So, anyways, anybody got anything else going on, or it's open mic always. So, Michael, you said you had some contracts, what are you putting together? Your assignments, or your actually your purchase contracts? Maybe you're not there anymore. How about anybody else? Anybody got anything going they want to talk about? Oh, the Board of Realtor contracts. Oh, I see. Okay, so you're using you're using the contract. Are you getting your license? Is that what you're doing? Because that's not a bad way to go, to be honest. If I don't know if one thing, if you go and get a real estate license, you can kind of immerse yourself into the business to a degree. And I would never suggest going to work for, like, if I was going to be a realtor, I'll tell you what, I wouldn't mind being a realtor, but I wouldn't be sitting in an office waiting for the phone to ring. I would be hustling listings, or I would also, I'd probably focus on land, to be honest, because if you focus on getting land listings, what's really nice about that is a lot of times the people that buy the land know far more than any of the realtors, and so they'll come in and they know exactly what they want, and they'll even tell you what you want, and then if you go find it, they'll buy it. And I see we got a bad connection here, but I'm going to assume it's still going through. But something that gets overlooked for making money for realtors, and well, let me just tell you something too. About 30 years ago, yeah, well, this is pretty interesting. There's a gal that she was a bartender in my town, and I went and got a license at about 25. I'd already had accumulated quite a bit of real estate, and I thought, well, at first I didn't really want to be an agent, because I thought, if I buy property as an agent, it's going to make people nervous, and they're going to worry that they're selling it too cheap, and then I might scare them away. That was my initial concern, and but I found it wasn't that big a deal. But what I didn't like is I didn't like really being an agent. I sold a couple houses, or I sold actually one house, and I realized never again. It was for a friend, but man, there's just too much emotion going on between the buyers and the sellers, and I realized I don't like that part of it. And so, but what I did like is having access to the MLS. I also liked having. I got better rapport with the title companies. The title companies would give you enormous lists of, the data was not so easily gotten 30 years ago, but the title companies had it down. You go to the title company, you could say, give me a list of owners, non-occupied, meaning, people that rent their properties, properties they own that they don't live in, that bought 15 years ago. And I would do that because I was looking for people that owned property that bought it 15 years ago, because it was probably almost paid for, and they're the ones that could afford to sell it cheap, or at a discount like I'd be looking for, and/or if they bought at least 15 years ago, they were in a better position to own or finance, because they probably had it about paid for. And that's something you should take away from this chat right here, is thinking about that. If you're going to approach people through a list, look for people that have owned the property more than 15 years, and you'll have a greater likelihood that they own that property outright, or have it nearly paid off. Because if you end up contacting people that bought like a year or two ago, chances are they owe more on it than you're willing to pay for it. Or if you buy like me, that would be the case. But yeah, the title companies would just give you reams of paper and maps and plats and addresses. They give it to you on a disc too, in an ASCII format, which is so you could, it's comma delimited names and addresses and stuff, and then you could run it through your word processor, and you could do mail merges and such thing, and send out mass quantities of letters, which was kind of fancier and tough to do 30 years ago. We had computers, but they weren't that good, and they were also very expensive. But what I was going to say is the one agent that went and got her license, a gal that I knew in town, she got her license at the same time. And about 10 years after that, I let her sell my property. I moved out of town. I said, hey, why don't you sell my house for me? And I let her sell my house. And boy, she talk about passionate. Man, this girl, man, she was a killer. She would work so hard for every listing. And if she went to go get a listing and there was other agents, you know, trying to get the listing, or they kind of compete for listings, man, she was the toughest. She would not let loose. And if she didn't get a listing that she tried to get, talk about being hard on herself. She would be just so mad, so angry, so upset. But that's the desire. That's the passion that you need. And I can relate to her passion. I know I have it with what I do when I'm looking for deals and buying deals. Well, she was that way about just getting listings. Well, to give you an example of how, or if this doesn't tell it all, 20 years later, or about 25 years later, I guess she was in the paper, because she had already taken in, just her side, $45 million in commissions. Now, $45 million in commissions over a period of 25 years, that is a lot of, that's moving a lot of real estate, and that is making a hell of a lot of money. I mean, that is making more money than many. I mean, I've got companies that I've had that are pretty successful companies, and they haven't made that much money. They haven't netted that much profit in 20 years. So that is, I'll tell you, man. Like I said, she was a very passionate, hard-working person. I think she still is. I haven't talked to her in years, but that's the kind of passion and desire you need. Is that when you don't win, you be hard on yourself. You're like, God darn it, you know. I mean, you can be. Listen, I tell you, you're gonna when you do this and you start going after deals the way I do, you are gonna lose some. It's just inevitable. You're gonna lose most of them probably, but once in a while you'll be right there where it's like just within your fingertips that you've got the deal, and then it'll be taken away by somebody else will outbid you, or something will happen, and you got to be heartened that you got that close. You just got to be happy that you got that close, and because it just means that you're going to hit eventually. It's all numbers, you know. The more you try, the more you're going to win. That's just how it is, and you're going to lose too, because you know when you're trying, you're going to lose probably at least half or more of the times you're going to lose, but it means you're also closer to winning. So anyways, but so it's always good to study that stuff. I see you're looking at the contracts and stuff. Everybody, if you're going to sign a contract that you don't write, you better make sure you understand it. And so certainly, I guess maybe we should do that too. We could go through it. We could read some of that. What are your average closing ratio? 10 to 1? Well, I mean, I close about 100%. If I go into escrow, when I go in and sign a deal, I close. I mean, rarely have I not closed. So I'm about 100% when it comes to closing. But if you're talking about how many deals have I worked on and gotten a signature on, I mean, it's probably maybe 3 out of 10. Maybe 3 out of 10, but you got to remember, the kind of deals that I get, they don't happen every day, they don't happen every week. Sometimes you get a couple in a week, but it may have been a dry spell for a month or two. That happens, but I would say 3 out of 10 deals where I stop and I talk and I get a hold of somebody and I start to having some conversations, maybe only 3 out of 10 turn into a purchase. But that's okay. That's okay, you know, because it's still usually my purchases keep me broke. In other words, like I'm just about out of money right now. I say I'm out of money. If something, I mean, I'm still looking, but when I get to where, and like I was explaining before, you know, I had about a little over 400,000. I wanted to put into one big building. I wanted to buy something for about $2 million, and I couldn't find anything. Then I found that 3-day deal, and I plopped down 160,000 cash for that, and then put about 40 into it. So there's 200, right? 200 of my 400's gone, and then I just bought this other one for 218,000. Yeah, and so now I'm kind of thin on money. and now I've got 2 houses that I'm putting on the market. I'm planning on holding those ones that I just bought. I'll probably hold those for maybe a year, just to get, you know, so that they go into a lower tax bracket after a year. You pay long-term capital gains instead of short-term. So I'll hold those for a year. I feel good. If the economy started to get shaky, or if I started getting nervous, you know, I might put all those up on sale. So let's see. Yeah, those are, yeah. I mean, if you're not trying, you're not failing. I mean, you're always going to have things that fall out and fail on you. You know, you think you got it, and it's not going to happen. It happens. But what's nice is, like this lake house deal, I told you guys, that was an extremely good deal. I mean, I got that for $80,000. You know, and you know, I might have paid $200 for it, to be honest. I mean, it was even much better than I knew right away. I mean, I knew it was I mean, it was obviously a great deal, but you know, it's probably, I don't even know for sure. Who knows? Maybe I'll get $350 or $400 for it by the time I sell it. I mean, I think it's probably worth that now. So, okay, Fosh, do you have a constant lead source? No. I am my source. I am the source. And that's what you guys got to be. You're going to be your own source. You know, I'll give you an example. Here's a typical conversation. I had this conversation today. I told you guys I was driving by and I found this property. I won't even say the exact acreage because I don't know who's watching me locally. But I found this piece of property that was about 20 acres, say. And it was all along a paved road. And it was beautiful because, you know, just like the width of your phone or whatever you're watching me on, I mean, you can just chop this piece of land up. If the bottom of this screen you're looking at is asphalt frontage, and then you got this long strip of 20 acres, you just chop this thing up into little pieces, and you don't have to do any street improvements. The street's there, the sewer's there. You know, it saves a lot of money. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to do a subdivision and go in and put in curb and gutter and all that other stuff. It's just ready to go, and that's a beautiful thing, and that's what you want. And I had another one that was really beautiful that it killed me because I had too many investments going at the time and I couldn't buy it. In fact, I went to a guy and I told him, I said, man, you should buy this because it's such a great deal. And he wasn't in a position to do it either. But what I had was, it was like an island. If you can imagine a piece of property that was pretty much sat on a circle. It looked like if you had a circle and you just cut a flat edge on it. That's what this property looked like. But it was 3 acres. And you could just chop this thing up just like a pizza, you know what I mean? Just like a pizza slices, pretty much. And you had 15 lots that were worth about $100,000 a lot. And so there's $1.5 million, and all you had to do is subdivide it. And that doesn't take very much money or very much time, because the curb, the gutter, everything was there. Everything was there. And you know, I could have got it for $600,000, actually $549, and it was painful. It was painful. Because what I had done is, it goes back to when I just bought a restaurant, and I made money on that, and I can't remember, but I bought a few other things. I was pretty broke. I'd spent most of my money, and again, and it was right after the big bank crisis, so it wasn't good. Everybody was tightening up on money, and it was, you know, I was kind of in for a little bit of a slowdown, and I didn't like that. It was making me a little bit nervous too. Just because I didn't know how it was going to affect my tenancy and that sort of thing. And I live on, you know, I live on rents. That's what I have. I have rents. I have money coming in too from some businesses too, but the rents are big. So, anyways, did I miss something? Is there anything else we were talking about? Oh yeah. So Fosh, yeah. No. So I am the source of all my stuff. And I was going to say, like, this agent that I talked to about this 20 acres, it was all chopped up. She says, are you working with an agent? And I said, well, I work with every agent. I said, if you bring me a deal, I'll buy it from you. I said, I don't go out of my way to try to enrich an agent. I tell an agent, you bring me a deal and I'll buy it from you. I'm not going to go around you. And I even tell them this, and this is important, is if you know, because agents get what we call pocket listings. They get somebody they're dealing with that doesn't want to give them a listing, but they tell them, hey, I'll take an offer if you bring me an offer. And so sometimes if you can pry and you know, gain the confidence of the agent, you know, it could be even fairly much a stranger. And I'm pretty good at getting this pretty quick. Is I let them know, hey, look, if you got a pocket listing, you can share it with me. I won't tell a soul, and I won't. And I said, but if we can make a deal, if you got something going, let me take a look at it. And you know, it'll remain just between me and you, but you know, maybe we can put it on. And believe me, I've had several deals that were pocket listings. The agents had properties that they were just this close to getting them signed, but the people didn't want to sign. They wanted them to bring them a deal first, you know, bring them a buyer. And so here I am, I'll you know, here's my offer, and they bring them my offer, and then it goes through. But again, if you don't circulate and talk to multiple agents, because, you know, let's just say, you know, the agents that sell land and the agents that sell, I would say, industrial type property, those are your sharpest agents. Those are the most sharpest of the bunch. I'm not saying there aren't sharp house agents or, you know, house realtors, but the sharpest, in my opinion, are the ones that can handle land, industrial, commercial properties. And that's more what I like anyhow. So those folks, if you talk to them and, you know, you let them know that, you know, you're a player, you're a buyer, and that if they have something, you know, and then you can always tell them, saying, you know what, say, if you share something like that, you know, maybe we make a deal, but also let them know that you know, you're out there working for yourself, always trying to find a deal too. And if you come at a standstill with somebody that you can't make a deal with, you can tell them that you will tell them about that prospect that you're working on. You know, like, in other words, if I can't make a deal good enough, if I can't make something happen with somebody I know that has a property, then I might just say, okay, heck with it. And then I'll go tell an agent, I'll say, hey, this guy here, he wants to sell his property. You could probably get a listing. And then the agent, you know, goes and contacts him, and then maybe the agent gets a listing, and then they make a nice commission, and they remember you. They remember that you helped them get that lead. You helped them get that listing. So I think that answers your question, right, Fosh? You know, okay, first let me get to Michael's question. How do I do direct mail? Oh, man. Well, I mean, I'm selective. I mean, I'll find an area. Sometimes I'll find an area and I might blanket the whole area, but before I make my list, I look at my list, and, you know, if anybody's bought recently, I don't want to talk to them because they probably owe more on the property than I'm willing to pay for it anyway, so no sense wasting a stamp on them. The other thing is I might look for the names of realtors. If I see realtors' names on these lots and properties, and then I'm not going to send them a letter because they're going to panic and go, oh, great, somebody's trying to contact everybody in my neighborhood, and then you're going to motivate them to go in and screw your deals up because they're going to start knocking on the doors that you're writing letters to. So, you know, I'm just kind of selective. You know, you don't have to have quantity. You need quality, right? You need quality leads and quality properties and properties that you want. And so, and I mean, I've done that. I've sent thousands of letters out. I mean, if I'm blanketing a huge piece of desert, I don't care. You know, I can send out a lot of letters out there. And it's all the same anyway, so it doesn't matter. But if it was, you know, a neighborhood, I'm not gonna write it to people that bought their house in 2014 or 2016. I mean, I might if it's really appreciated a bunch, but probably not. Most people buy and they usually sit in their home for a good 10 years, if not longer. So, and I see my battery's going dead. I'm getting low, so I don't know. We can handle a few more questions, I'm sure, but at some point, I'm going to lose my my questions that I can read. So what else? What was the other question? So I think that answers your question on direct mail, Michael, right? Just more quality than quantity, and you know, just, you know, don't, when you get a list to send out on, you know, take a look at that list. Look for names that are familiar to you. You know, people that might not be friendly to you. You know, and make sure you don't tip them off that you're looking for properties in that area. And Fosh, let me see here, get my glasses on for this. Do you suggest newbies put 100% focus on flipping and building up cash reserves? Well, I mean, I'll tell you, if you're a newbie, then yeah, I'm going to assume you don't have a lot of money anyways, but you might have a great job. You know, if you have a great job, you know, maybe you should go ahead and buy a home. you know, get a great deal on it, and get a great deal on it. In fact, that's probably one of the easiest things you can do is if you're in a position to buy a home for yourself, you know, just go shopping and look and look and look, and then you'll know a great deal when you find one. And like I say, go get that pre-qualification letter so that people know that when you say you're going to buy it, that you're going to buy it. Because if you tell people, like, yeah, I'll take it, and you're not pre-qualified, they're not going to take you seriously. So if you're in that position, go get your pre-qualification letter that says, you know, that the bank says, you know, Joe so-and-so is qualified for a loan of up to X, you know, it could be 200,000, 100,000, whatever, million, whatever it is. Get that down so that people will take you seriously. And then, of course, yeah, always save your money, keep your overhead low, and save as much as you can. You know, no matter what, I always try not to. I mean, I can spend a lot of money on vacations, and I do, and I have no hesitation to spend money on good food and good times and vacations. But when I buy tangible items, I tend to always get a good deal. I mean, I shop, and I'm not talking about things that cost, you know, things under $100 or $500. You know, I can spend money like that, but if I start spending, you know, tens of thousands, or like I've been looking for a car, and I've been starting to look at the Porsche Panamera, and you know, these things new are anywhere from $99,000 to $175,000, and if I buy one, I'm going to get a good deal. I mean, that's just how it is. So I've been shopping, I've been looking at miles, and I'm getting a sense of what a good deal is on a Porsche Panamera. And then they've got the S model, which is four-wheel drive, and they got the GTS model, which is four-wheel drive. And then they have the ones that aren't S, or, you know what I'm saying? So I'm showing you. I've only been looking for a week, but I already know. I know which models are four-wheel drive, which models aren't four-wheel drive, and then they have a turbo, and I have a hybrid model. I know which ones I want, know which ones I don't want. See, I'm taking time to understand. Now, with this knowledge, and I'm starting to say, okay, you know, I saw one the other day that was, you know, $55,000, I think, and it was actually a pretty good deal because it was low miles and it was $55,000. I think it was a 2016 or something, I don't know. But I'm getting a feel for what is a good deal, and this is exactly what I tell you to do with your houses, the properties that you're looking at in your immediate area. That's what you have to do. You need to look at what's in your immediate area and shop like you're going to buy. That's what I do, and that's what's important. That's what's going to make you your money. And so when I do buy a car, if it ends up being one of these Panameras, you can bet that I'll buy it under market. I'll be able to drive it for 2 or 3 years, and it'll probably, in 2 or 3 years, it'll be worth what I paid for it today. You know, it's because it's going to depreciate. It's going to go down in value. That's just no other way around it. So hey, please like my videos, and please subscribe. And if you're new here, pretty raw video. I'm just, you know, I don't try to be real slick. I've made a lot of money buying and selling real estate, and you know, I don't pretend to be somebody I'm not. I just tell you exactly my experience of what I'm doing, and as I'm doing it, and I'm here to help anybody I can that's interested in talking and watching about how to negotiate a price with sellers. How are you able to determine their motivation level? Okay, I'll talk about that a little bit. But before I do, please like the videos. You can like this one while you're watching, that'd be great. And regarding Fosh's question, so yeah, you got to be tactful. Look, when you're talking to somebody that has a property for sale, the best thing you can do is try to get them to say how much they want for the property first, okay? Because they may give you a figure that you're perfectly satisfied with right off the bat. And don't bargain a property down just for the sake of trying to get a better deal, because if somebody comes to you, I'll give you an example. My mom, she's a bargain hunter, man, like you can't believe. And it comes out of necessity from being poor. But she went to a garage sale, and there was like a fire safe, a fire file, okay? It was worth, I don't know, probably $200–300. And my mom says, well, hey, how much do you want for this fire file? And the lady said, oh, you know what, just give me $40. And my mom goes, how about 20? And the lady goes, how about I'm not going to sell it? And just turned her back on her. And and that file cabinet was no longer for sale because she was so insulted by my mom offering such a pittance for something that was so valuable. So you got to be careful. It applies to real estate too. So the best thing you can do is when you're talking and negotiating with the seller, is let the seller say, well, you know, what do you think it's worth? You know what? You can ask what they, you can say, I know it doesn't matter what you paid for it, but what'd you pay for it, or or what do you think it's worth now? And if they say that, hey, I'd be happy if I could get 150 for it, and you're thinking, wow, I was just going to offer 200. That happens, and you say, well, you know what, I can work with that, and you might, just for the sake of it, is there would you soften up at all, or are you pretty firm on that? Just be very delicate how you treat people, because here's the other thing. Don't walk around and insult a property. Some people are just total jackasses. They don't get it. They walk on a property and they start talking about everything that's wrong with the property. And pretty soon it's like, hey, you know what? Just get the hell out of here if you don't like it. That's what I tell somebody. And so it's better to be complimentary, and just say, oh yeah, this is nice. Oh, I like, tell them you like the property. You like the property, and you might tactfully ask about things that are issues, because they can register, oh yeah, that does need fixing, or oh yeah, that's not quite complete. You ask questions that pretty much expose that, oh yeah, we have an issue with this. That's a big fear, insulting them by offering such a lowball offer, LOL. Yeah, well, like I said, if you can get them to speak first, they may lowball it for you. That's just the truth. And I don't really like saying lowball necessarily, but I mean, properties change. If you've been around as long as I have, I've seen properties. That's why I say, especially when it comes to houses, my deal is made the day that I buy it, because I know if I buy something for 60 and it's worth 100, great, I'm making 40 today. But I also know the economy can dive. There's things like that bank crisis. There's things that can stifle the economy. And then all of a sudden that $100,000 property, it just almost immediately just became an $80,000 piece of property. But because I bought it right, I still have time to get out of it. I can sell it for 70 and make 10 and just get out quick before it drops down to 60, And, I wasn't trying to be a problem. Oh, I see. Yeah, well, here's the deal. And I'm losing my ability to see questions on here. Let me see if I can see. No, doesn't work. Anyways, you had an angry reaction. I can tell you, I've rarely had an angry reaction. I mean, I really can't even remember one off the top of my mind. But it's because I'm careful not to insult anybody. And, when Michael, what did you offer? Yeah, Michael, share. I mean, what are the conditions? Because, look, I insulted a lady not too long ago on an offer. And guess what? She was insulting too, because she was asking about 50% more than it was worth, okay? And I offered her about 30% less than maybe what it would sell for. So, basically, she said, what do you give? Or actually, she told me, we'll take $350 cash. Well, this property wasn't worth but $225, maybe $230, and I offered her $175, and that was after she offered it to me for $350. So, anyways, I don't know what's happened to the property. But I will check on it. She was going to list it with an agent. I said, well, tell me who you list it with, and I'll talk to them. She never sent it to me, so she was a little bit offended, I guess. But not terribly. But don't be afraid. I mean, listen, that's how you're going to learn. You're going to learn what not to say. This is part of paying your dues. This is how you're going to get ahead and become a great investor, is that the lesson you learn today, making somebody angry, it's a great lesson. Believe me, learning what not to do is just as important as learning what to do, All right, in Hawaii, the appreciation phase. Right, well, I don't think that's unreasonable. I mean, was it a multi-unit property or was it just a single unit? I mean, I can tell you, I have to have a minimum of a 20% return, even on a property that I'm willing to pay cash for it, and maybe I just want a decent return on investment. 20% maybe at 100% occupancy, that's not that insulting, because there's always a slight vacancy rate. So I always figure 10%. So if I'm looking for a 10% return on my money, I have to, at a minimum, I have to get a 20%. Yeah, well, I wouldn't worry about it. I just, just say, hey, if you change your mind, please keep me in mind. If you change your mind, please let me know. I'd like to talk to you about it. Or here's another way. I'll tell you, here's another way I did it. And this guy actually ended up becoming my partner. He's since died. Really great guy. I really miss him. He just died not that long ago. And I made him about $1 million or more before he died. And so that made me feel good because he was a great guy. And he actually went to what is it? Military school with Schwarzkopf. And really, really good guy. But anyways, when I saw him, he had a property, apartment complex, and I was trying to steal it from him best I could. I was trying to get a really good deal. And I'm kind of answering your question too, Fosh. So what I did is, he said, well, look, I'm going to come and visit you. And so he came, and we met, we had lunch, and I went through it, and I was very nice to him, and I was never insulting. And I joked with him. I'd say, yeah, are you ready to sell the Taj Mahal? That's what I'd tell him, because he was like overly proud of the property. So I'd refer to it as the Taj Mahal, and it was actually called the Beverly too. And so I'd say, are you ready to sell the Beverly Hills property? Because it was called the Beverly. It was an apartment building. And I'd say, well, are you ready to sell the Beverly Hills? And so we have fun banter back and forth. And when we finally got down and putting a pen to paper, I went through and I said, okay, how much is this? How much is this? How much is this? Let's look at the taxes. Let's look at the rate. And I was using the numbers on his rents, because his rents were low. And I didn't know if he knew that. I don't think he did. So his rents were kind of low. And so with his rents being low, I could show him that if I bought, I said, well, I came up with, here's how much money's left over after everything's paid. I've got X amount of dollars left over to make a mortgage payment. And I said, okay, now how much of a mortgage payment will this, say $5,000, whatever it was, how much of a mortgage payment, how much money can I borrow, and with a $5,000 available cash flow, what kind of a mortgage is that going to pay on? So it fell short of paying the mortgage that he would like me to have, because let's just say he wanted $600,000 and I was trying to buy it for $400,000, and I was showing him, look, I can't make, if I put 20% down, I can't make a payment on $320,000 with the available money that's left over based on your rents. And so I thought I was beating him down. I thought I was going to get him to go for it, but he's a really shrewd guy too. And he says, well, Tom, he goes, look, I'm not going to sell you my property. He goes, but I'll tell you what. He goes, I want to be your partner. He goes, if you ever have something you want to buy, and he goes, I'll be your partner if you'll have me. And so I really appreciated him. It was because we were nice to each other the whole time. We were always respectful to each other. And it turned out to be a beautiful friendship for 25 years or so. And like I say, he just passed away, and I'm very, very thankful that I met him. And now I'm friends with his kids, and his kids are becoming my partners basically. But my point is you see how I worked that? I just said, like with this guy, you can say, how much are your rents? And if the place is in bad condition, it's not going to rent for much. But you can say, well, if how's that going to make the mortgage, right? You can kind of say, how am I supposed to make the mortgage when it only rents for, X amount? And then that's how you bring the price down. You know what I mean? You're kind of saying, hey, how do we solve this problem together? Well, the answer is easy. We lower the price. But you let him come up with that idea, not you. And so, hey, I think we're going to have a dead battery here pretty soon. So I think we better cut it short here. But please, again, appreciate you guys hanging out. And if you're a first-time watcher, this is what we do. I do some whiteboard stuff too. But basically been buying and selling real estate for 35 years since I was 19. And I've made a lot of money. And I've got 4 kids, and I'm kind of doing this as a blog so my kids will understand what to do when they get old enough and more interested in real estate. And so I appreciate all the questions, you know, and I really do. It's great stuff, and it makes it easier. You know, my kids are watching this in 10 years. You know, they'll appreciate it. They'll start to get it, just like people that are watching. You know, you understand, see the questions that are going on back and forth, and we're going to get to it. Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Really do appreciate it. And please share. And you know, that app will be ready here pretty soon, and you guys are going to have a big advantage. And you're going to be very organized. It's going to be very cool. And so if you don't know, I've got an app. If you write me at Tom at FlipAnythingUSA.com, Tom at FlipAnythingUSA.com, and put either Android or iPhone in the subject line, and you'll be first in line to get the app when it's ready to release. So that's it for now. Again, please share and subscribe and like those videos. It helps me go up in the rating with YouTube. So that's it, and good night.